Welcome to Stay Humble Podcast, Kofi Smiles. How are you feeling today?
Man, I'm good. I'm glad I'm here. It's taken us a while. Well, I say it's taken us a little bit of time for us to get here. But I watched some of the other ones that you did. Obviously, I saw Hull's Grand King, Cheerio Rackers, which I thought was class. And what was the other gentleman who films the rugby? What was his? I can't remember.
Sean Burton, who films
Yeah,
grassroots rugby media, yeah.
that was really interesting because, I started off when I was younger. One of the first sports teams I started playing for was Kane Vikings because obviously I grew up in Wivensey, and that was rugby league team. And then it wasn't until I started going to school in Hull, when I started at Hull Grammar, where I switched over to rugby union. So it was
Yeah.
interesting, and obviously at work, there's at KRFC, we're drowning in rugby league, aren't we? So it was just nice to sort of hear his story and his involvement and how the is it RNLI? I can't remember. The rugby league, is it Federation?
Rugby Football League, yeah.
Yeah,
He's part of the partnership there. He got asked to obviously help promote the game for grassroots rugby, which he's doing. He's a great advocate of that. Unfortunately, with the current situation, he's not been able to record, but obviously it's been really good to get people's input in terms of that, in terms of just his perspective on the way he records and what got him involved in that. And I'd like to ask you yourself, really, how did you sort of find your interests or purpose going towards radio or radio presenting or presenting on TV? How did that come about?
Oh man, great question. I don't know how long you've got. I think ever since I was a kid, music has always been like a big love of mine. Music and storytelling, and some people might say that they're one and the same because some people express themselves and tell their stories through song. Regardless of either way, it's the art form. The two, it's a form of art and a form of expression. And mum and dad always listened to various types of music, a lot of hip life, a lot which is a genre of music that comes out of West Africa, comes out of Ghana, and they listen to, my mum and dad listen to everything. So anything from Dave Grusin, jazz, and Annie Lennox, early 90s pop, Tina Turner, Phil Collins, Genesis, and what do you call it, Billy Joel, all this sort of Johnny Nash and all this stuff. I said Johnny Nash, not Johnny Cash. Everyone's like, "Do you mean Johnny Cash?" I'm like, "No, I said what I said. I mean, I mean Johnny Nash." He was like a pop sort of soul singer from the 70s, 80s. He recently died, actually, unfortunately. Same day as Eddie Van Halen. And listen to rock music, and because we were so inundated with different sounds and experiences and good times with it. Some of that carried with me in growing up, and this is back in the day of having to listen to the top 40 and recording your songs on a cassette player and stuff like that. So me and my sisters were always doing that on a weekend. When it comes to Sunday, we'd have it on and things. And I've always had a lot of good experiences around music, and my mum and dad have always, mainly my mum, really encouraged me to read. So I'd get my sisters hand me down books, all the Enid Blyton and stuff, the famous Five, all the Roald Dahl stuff, and and it got to a point where I sort of started outgrowing them. I'm not really liking them because you get to a point where young boys don't. I didn't want to read some of the stuff that they were reading. There was a lot of neutral stuff, but then I was really started getting into things like the Goosebumps books and some of the Tolkien stuff, and I started reading fantasy books by David Gemmell, and I was reading more Marvel comics and stuff like that, or any comics I could really get my hands off at the time. So it was just anything that was engaging, that was a story that I would really fall into, because I don't know, it just felt like I was sort of stepping out and away from the world that I was sort of growing up in around here, where for quite a lot of the time I felt like I was a little bit of an outsider, mainly just because of being the only black kid in school, the only black kid in the whole town and stuff. There was always those sort of feeling of difference, even though you didn't realize it. There was always something there, like a thin veil I couldn't quite pierce, but I knew was there. And dealing with those sort of feelings of difficult times, it was easier to sort of jump into another world, jump into a fantasy book, or listen to some music and figure out what the world's doing. It was a huge part of escapism. And as I got a little bit older, and my friendship groups got a little bit more secure, we were the generation that grew up with things like Jackass and Dirty Sanchez, and watching Zane Lowe on MTV2 doing Gonzo, And I always use this example, listening to this dude from New Zealand with black frame glasses and a shaved head talk about Incubus, one of the, I guess most prolific nu metal bands and rock bands of our generation, and then dancing around talking about like Farside or Naughty by Nature or Tribe Called Quest, and then going in to talk about like Chemical Brothers. And I was like, who is this dude talking about like so many different genres of music? And like, because at that time when I was like 13, 14, 15, you was either an entertainment presenter or you talk about pop, or you was a specialist in rock or dance or hip hop, you know what I mean? And but Zayn was doing it all, and I was like, boom, that's what I want to do. That's, I want to be able to sort of talk about music. But then I started, my friends and I got really, really obsessed with like things like the MTV Video Awards. So I don't know if you remember the MTV Video Awards. Like they always have like a guest presenter. So one year they had Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake, and they in between the awards and throughout the ceremony they would have themselves sort of green screened into little sketches of films that had been released that year. And I remember one year, I think it was, what was the second Matrix film called? Was it the Matrix 2, Matrix Reloaded, yeah. They had a hilarious set of sketches in that, and there was some sketches from like Star Wars and Revenge of the Sith, and it was just fun. Do you know what I mean? It was just funny stuff, and it was all about pop culture and nerdy stuff that I was into, and music. So I was like, that's the world I want to be in. But I never thought there was any access to there. I never thought, how do I get there? Because my mum and dad were like, they didn't really know much about that world. They didn't really have anyone to reference how to get into that world, how to get a good job, a secure job in that place. So I was sort of guided to more like things like law, pharmacy, medicine, just things that were secure. But then as I got a little bit older, and obviously I went from Hull Grammar to Hymers, from Hymers to Wilberforce College. Hold tight, Wilberforce College, by the way. It was awesome. I loved it at Wilberforce College for life. I managed to meet teachers that were sort of being able to push me towards that space, push me towards that area of like media, and saying, look, there's ways to do it. So I went and did English and journalism at university, and having some like prior experience with my mates, messing around in Withensea, like on the market stalls, on the skate park, on the beach, just riding around on the backs of, well, my mates had scooters when they were like 16, and I'd get on the back with my like high-8 video camera, and we'd just be riding around, filming stuff, recreating our own jackass stuff, stealing trolleys and things. And, I did nothing with the footage. I've still got most of it here now, but like we just filmed it and then come back and play it back and be like, oh my God, look at how Matty bailed and cracked his head on the pavement there. And we'd all just be laughing back at all this like footage and stuff. And, it was just ace to be able to sort of capture these moments, imagine what the soundtrack would be like. And, it was just something that I've always like wanted to do. It never felt like work. And it wasn't until university where on my course, after my first year, which was, we spent an entire year learning how to sort of write for broadcast newspapers, learning how to write articles. We were told in second year to like kind of forget all that, think about how you're going to take that 1,500 word essay and turn that into like a 500 or 250 word essay with a video to go along with it. So we had to learn how to film, how to edit, and then me and some friends, we found out like we could rent equipment from the university. So we used to go and interview bands and artists that were coming in and into the city, and interview DJs and people that were putting nights on and stuff. And we made a little thing of it. We had our own sort of student radio, and I just fell into it from there because it was just everything that I thought I loved to do, didn't think I could do, and was able to do. We weren't getting paid because we were like students, and the quality was like, it was good student quality, but when you look back at it, you're like, oh God, burn it, we need to take this off the internet. We can't let anybody see that we were part of it. But that was part of the journey, and that was where you could cut your teeth. That doing that was massive, and I had a great time. But it got to a point where I finished university. I did like a year of a master's. I was working for Apple up in Newcastle, and I spent 4 years, 4.5 years. I don't want to say my life was on pause, but working in a job that paid well, but I didn't get that sort of enjoyment. I had some good friends there, and I kind of feel like I was turning up because we had a laugh, we got paid well. It wasn't exactly the most difficult job, and there was all this like progression that they promised, and you almost had to, you had to take, but it's not where my heart was. And I remember it came to a point where I broke up with my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, well, why am I actually here? So I came back to Hull. Came back to Withensea, moved back here with my mum and dad, and there was like, I need to figure this out. Mum was like, what is it you want to do? And I said, look, it's media. Do you know what I mean? Is it TV? Is it radio? Is it film? So ended up getting a job in London, working for a mate's grilled cheese food vendor. They did like events, festivals, that sort of thing. And I was working for him. I was trying to get work experience and stuff, and did that for lived on his couch for about 9 months in London. Came back up, was home for a bit, had a few jobs in retail and stuff here and there. Then managed to get a job on a film set on a BAFTA-winning movie, God's Own Country, and just as a runner. But it gave me enough some experience, and I met some good people. And then I wasn't sure what was going to happen after that. Work dried up a lot. I was doing things like script revisions. So production companies would get scripts in, and then they would send them out to people to sort of read them, break them down, see what the audience is for this, see where you can market it, go through it, see where the potential was, and you break them down and send them back. And some people would pay like 20 quid or 50 quid per script. But then that started drying up. So, I was on a job centre, and then I just started doing some admin work with them. And then it was interesting. The whole Face of Hull thing came up when we went into 2017, as we were going into 2017. So the BBC were looking for someone to represent the city as a reporter for online radio and TV while we went for our City of Culture year. And, I sort of saw the advertisement there, and I was like, oh, I'm a black guy with dreadlocks, piercings and tattoos. I'm not exactly what someone would imagine when you picture someone from Hull, let alone someone to represent it and be the quote unquote the face of it, whatever that face could be. And I remember the night before the audition, and I only told my sisters and my mum and my two best mates, Luke Luke, Gaz, and I told Bax as well, Bax and Emily. There was only like a small group of people that knew that I was going for it. Because in Paris, I was like, why would they pick me? Do you know what I mean? They're gonna want someone who was white. Do you know what I mean? But my sister was like, look, you don't know. You know what I mean? You don't know, and you shouldn't really think like that, because you just don't know what they're after. They want someone who's got like a relationship with the city. I grew up in Hull. I live in Windsea, but I went to school in Hull, so like my weekends were spent there. We used to walk back from Welly to Withensea, you know what I mean, on some nights out, just so we could get some food. It'd take hours. By the time I got back from Welly, I'd have to get ready to get the bus back to Hull for college. You know what I mean? You don't think straight when you're drunk and you're 17, 18. So it's just like, but yeah, I had a lot of big experiences there. So I was like, okay, I'll go for it. So I went for it, and it was interesting at the time. I was offered a job in London with a production company to work with one of the execs to sort of help, I guess, produce TV shows and help with movies and stuff. And it was a huge opportunity, but I'd only just found out about the second round of this Face of Hull thing. So it was like 200 people turn up. We had a minute to impress the judges, and with like any reason why we should be picked. And I had this like spin wheel with 6 things on it, which attracted me to the city or my relationship to Hull. And the plan was to get one of the judges up as like my assistant, and like they would spin the wheel, and whatever it landed on, I would I gave myself 10 seconds to give an explanation of them. And then the whole ideal was, right, look, judges, we've got 6 things on the board. There's 4 judges. I've got 6 prizes in the box. However many we get through, you could win 6 prizes. So I had a picture of William Wilberforce, Spiders Nightclub, Viking FM, and in hindsight, I probably should have put Radio Humberside. And then the Humber Bridge, and what was it? Clive Sullivan, Spiders Nightclub, Clive Sullivan, Humber Bridge, Viking FM, William Wilberforce, and what was that song? Was it Wilberforce College? Can't remember. And just basically so I could use them as prompts. So we spoke about William Wilberforce, his legacy of the city, you know what I mean, son of Hull, all that sort of stuff. Clive Sullivan was one of the first sort of black rugby players I was aware of when I was a kid, and his legacy and everything about that. And Humber Bridge, obviously I was working out of Hull. Anytime, you know that drive, when you've been away and you see those red dots in the distance, like, I'm almost home. You can be feeling a bit knackered, or you just be like, oh God, this journey's taking ages. But as soon as you see those dots of the Humber Bridge, you're like, boom, it's home. It's the first thing. Like,
it's nowhere like it.
You know what I mean? There's no feeling like that saying, I'm almost home. I'm almost home when you see the Humber Bridge. It's like it's there just like sort of like beckoning you back into the city and stuff. And I spoke about Spiders about one night where I went there, and this girl I was like dating was like, no offense, but it's not going to work out. She's off having a good time, and I'm real upset, and everyone's trying to like cheer me up, all these strangers and stuff. You know what I mean? It's just all these little stories which I thought were quite funny, and when I finished, I gave them their prizes and I printed off like a picture of me at like 3 years old. So I was like, when you're making your decision, make sure you make these little boys' dreams come true. So they had something physical on the desk. So they had. So yeah, I went through that, and the whole sort of audition, that process got us through into the next 10, where we had like a day of tests. So we had to do 2 video tests with the camera up, and we had to do a radio test and an interview with the editor of BBC Radio Humberside and Up North. So I went through that whole process, and then it went down from 10 to 3 and then 3 to me. So then I've been with the BBC for like it'll be 4 years at the end of November since I started with them. And yeah, I started off, just filming, editing, covering all the stuff for the City of Culture, and I had my own show on a weekend, and we did stuff for the news channel and did, a few bits with various outlets, Radio 1, BBC, Radio 4, done some Super 6 music. And yeah, it's been an absolute ride, and all of this has just come out of like, I guess like my love of just storytelling. And I think maybe I say storytelling, but being a bit nosy, I'm so interested by like why people do stuff or what makes people tick. And, I've always been interested in sort of writing and script writing, storytelling. I thought, where do you get the best stories from people? They tell you that something has happened, and you look into how that's affected them and how that sort of causes them to react in certain ways going forward. It's, I just think people are interesting. I say people and experiences and stuff. So yeah, in a long way, yeah, that's how I got into what I'm doing right now. I'm still here now. I've gone from doing all the City of Culture stuff to having my show and platform called No Filter, which was, pretty much like, imagine if BBC Three was a radio station, it was a radio show. Myself, my colleague Martha Mangan, we used to do that. The show was on Monday nights. Martha runs it now, and we used to film and do videos and put them up online. And I recently took over the breakfast show in September from James Pykos. And yeah, that's my main bit now, just doing more. It's flipped now, because before it was like more digital stuff and less radio, but now I'm doing more radio and less digital stuff, which is like, it's cool. I do miss it a little bit. We had a lot more freedom with music and the type of conversations we had. Like, we had some funny stuff, like we were sharing stuff, we were talking about like, we're all sharing stories about losing our virginity. Like, a friend of mine has a podcast which has 4 or 5 women talking candidly and anonymously about sex and relationships, and they were down the line. It was really interesting because, the whole conversation was driven around, why is it that some people build up losing their virginity? Why is it a big thing? Do you just sort of get it over and done with and move on and learn about pleasure and sex because school's not going to tell you that? Or is it like a Dawson's Creek thing where you've got those, candles and, someone's in the corner playing their acoustic guitar? Do you know what I mean? Or something like that. It's just, making it really cheesy, because that's what it's like in teen dramas, isn't it? And it's like, does that give teenagers, young people, a really sort of false expectation about sex and relationships? So some on the surface, some of the stuff was like, oh, that's a bit weird or a bit mature. But when we go deeper into it, there was a lot of sort of context to it, and it was a lot of fun. Got to playlist it myself with Martha and stuff. Yeah, it was good. But sometimes you got to sort of step out your comfort zone, don't you, and like try something new. Like, so yeah.
Well, it's quite a thorough story in terms of how you found that purpose in terms of getting into radio and stuff like that. And what I wanted to just sort of further go on to, I mean, obviously, congratulations on having that breakfast show now on Radio Humberside as well. And what I wanted to ask was just going back onto the year of 2017 with the City of Culture. How was that as a year for yourself? Like, being a part of that year, obviously with all the events that was going on in the city, and to be honest, there was a real buzz, I'd say, in Hull at that time, with all like the things going on in terms of the events and stuff that was going on. It was a really great year to be in the city when that was happening.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like, one thing I've taken from 2017 is like, take it in. Because one thing I said to myself, I said, if I get this role as a festival, I'm not going to drink the entire year, because I want to be able to absorb it. And like, I knew there was going to be a lot of parties. I knew that it was going to be quite wild, quite fast. And I didn't want to be like hungover. I didn't want to be slow. And I knew that, when I got the role, there was quite a lot of resistance to me taking part of the role. People like, it's not even from Hull. And, there's quite a lot of racist stuff as well. So it was like, look, I don't want to give anyone an excuse to doubt me or for me to sort of be thrown off this. So I'm going to do the whole thing sober. And it makes it sound like I had a drinking problem, but I just wanted to be alert. And even though I went through it, I did the whole year not touching a bit of alcohol. like I was really caught up in everything, covering everything, being part of everything, which is damn near impossible because the guys, the culture guys, had so much stuff planned. We couldn't get everywhere. You know what I mean? We just couldn't get everywhere, and it was like quite frustrating. And I was like, look, I'm only here for a year. I want to just absorb it and take it all in. And I think, yes, it was driving me, but it was also a bit of a negative because I wasn't really sort of always taking in some of the moments that I should have been. And it's not until I look back at pictures or my 1 second a day video and things like that, I'm like, oh God, that happened. Oh yeah, it was amazing. We met these individuals. And sometimes I find myself on my Instagram going back and just thinking, did that actually happen? It feels like it didn't happen because just the vibe, the change in people's attitudes, which I think quite a lot of is lingered now. I think people are more open. That like there's more people wanting to try things, willing to try stuff, and I think it's given people that uplifted confidence. It's a shame it didn't sort of carry on for a bit longer, but being in the center of it or being part of the center of it and just watch it unfold, and like the best thing, like seeing the many different demographics of Hull, which some people might not believe we have in the city, like in terms of financial demographics, racial demographics, gender demographics, age demographics, sexual demographic. Everyone's just sort of coming together and trying stuff and being there to celebrate what Hull has to offer and what the meaning of Hull is, especially during that first week with the This Is Hull. Do you know what I mean? The light display, the amount of people that were like, I've seen it 12 times. Oh, you know what I mean? I went on Monday and I went round twice. I went back Tuesday 3 times. And it's just like, whoa, this is the first week. And then the Blade, that whole sort of debate about, when it was getting installed, people watching it on that Facebook Live. And then everyone's just like, it's fake. It's all like, fake news and stuff. Like, no, this is real. They should have left it. I'm really mad they took it out of that. What a great sort of monument to the year. They just left that thing in the center of Queen Victoria Square. It was phenomenal. Like, it was, I don't want to say it was hard to imagine it's going to be like that, because I don't want to say, like, I don't want to sort of indicate that Hull didn't have that potential to make the year what it was. But it was hard to imagine that it was going to be that good. Like, there was some stuff that just caught you off guard, or you might look in the brochure and be like, oh, okay, was it, I can't remember, well, I know what it's called. There was one event which was I always get it mixed up with 2097, which had like an interactive theatre piece in the old, that building that's opposite King Billy that's now flats.
Yeah.
So it was in there. It was like an old bank, and that was incredible. And I got a couple of my mates to come down to that, and that was one of the few things other than the big weekend that they did. And obviously the big weekend coming to Burton Constable. Did you go?
I did, yeah. I did. I went on the Sunday.
Mate, come on. It was like having like a festival in your back garden, because there was people there that you knew, people there that you know of. Do you know what I mean? And when do we ever get that? And the fact that they said, look, 95% of the tickets go to people from Hull and any of the surrounding postcodes. And just that was the moment where I was like, geez, big weekends here. Kingsley are in Hull, Kate Perry's in Hull. Do you know what I mean? Like Heimer in Hull. It was just like, Storms is here in Hull. Biffy Clyro is here in Hull. It was just everything that, we wanted and more. And it felt like for the most part, there was something for everyone. Or there was a lot of free events. I think maybe they could have done a lot better with accessibility and making, people from maybe some of the estates and some of the fringes feel a bit more included. But there was a lot of stuff on where, I don't know if you're someone who might be into going to the theatre or someone that might be interested in ballet, but there were nights where you can just go and pay what you think it's worth. And like some of these productions, like, they had the ballet in the in Queen's Gardens, and whilst it was on live at the Hull New Theatre, some of that stuff cost, tickets would have been at least 60, 70, 80 quid, 100 quid, but they were there for free, or you could come pay, £2-3 for the family. And that was an opportunity, because you imagine being a little kid, being introduced to something you've heard of, you might have heard in class, or you've read it about in books, but you're experiencing it for the few time. Who knows what, young boys and girls are going to watch the ballet and think, oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I wanted to give it a go, because Hull's, and then you find out Hull's got such a rich history of prima ballerinas, and I'm not sure what the male term for a male ballerina is. But anyway, yeah, it's got like a big history of like turning over high quality ballet dancers, male and female, who go on to like perform in Russia and all around the world, and think, okay, I could be part of that legacy as well. I think people were seeing that, and I think for now, I know we've got COVID getting in the way of everything. I just hope that hasn't sort of planted itself on top of those memories, on top of those feelings of the younger kids, of younger minds. Even, in fact, no, not just young kids, of anyone from this city who feels like, oh, I come from Hull, which was voted the, what is it, the worst town in the UK to live in 1 year. And I know we're at the top of a not so sort of glamorous table at the moment with COVID, but you know what I mean? There's still, we can overcome this. And yeah, it was just one of those, like, it was just one of those years where I wish, even though I took in so much, I just feel like I could take in more if I was a little bit more like focused on just staying in the moment a little bit more. And obviously my contract was just for that year, and I was always thinking, oh, what about the next year? How do I keep my job? And I was a bit worried about, like, what's the next step, rather than like sort of really solidify myself in that moment, in that year, thinking a lot about this year and what's going on and taking everything in, but then also thinking about, what am I going to do next? What was if they don't keep me on? What was if there's not space for me? Where can I go and stuff? So, but the main thing from that is right now I'm just like, next 12 months, just focus on the breakfast show. Just keep your mind on that.
I'd like to say I'd totally agree with you. It was one of them sort of epic years that was 2017 with City of Culture, and like I say, it was great to get your sort of insight in terms of what it was to experience that. Obviously, being the face of it and being in the moment, really. And I think that's a positive thing that you took in terms of being, going through sort of sobriety, in terms of not drinking through the year, to actually experience that feel and be part of it. Because obviously, you wouldn't, like say, you would hate to not experience that. That would be so that's a real positive thing, I think, that you did. And what I wanted to just sort of go into now is more sort of your present at the moment. Obviously, like you say, you're now presenting the breakfast show on Radio Humberside, but obviously we are currently going through a 2.0 of lockdown and stuff. And I just wanted to get your sort of opinion on how you coped during like the last sort of this year. How have you been able to manage yourself in terms of yourself? How you've been able to sort of motivate your listeners and keep them positive and stuff like that? Keep them in that way.
I've got to be really mindful about this, because one of the big things that a lot of people have experienced this year is, I think, is a lot of displacement. So many people are displaced, and it's easy for me to be like, oh, not much has changed for me, because I've worked a lot, and for a lot of people, work, jobs, finances has been something that's so integral to their day to day, so stressful that that has shook a lot of people's foundations. So for me, having worked the entire time and throughout this whole time, I've had this structure. I haven't necessarily been locked down in my house. You know what I mean? I've obviously I've had to, when I'm not at work, I've had to stay at home and do my, at the time, my government sanctioned 60 minutes of exercise and stuff. But for the most part, I've been out. I've been like out with work. I've been active. So, and I think we said before, the only thing that's changed for me is the gym, like having to train outside, having to train at home. But it's been tough, and it's been like, how do we keep people? The whole ethos of the BBC has been like, how do we keep people informed of what's going on? How do we make sure they're up to date with what's going on? How do we keep people entertained, and how do we help people stay connected and help them out? So we've had this whole thing at work called the Make a Difference desk, where people who need a bit of help or need to find the right information and don't have, let's say, the internet or access to the certain devices, or people at work, they're furloughed and the furlough isn't covered enough and they need a new cooker. How can we at the BBC help? So I was doing a lot of the Make a Difference stuff quite at the start of it and center of it, which was really, really good and really sort of rewarding. Being able to sort of just go and pick up a bag of board games and from one person and drop them off at someone else's house, that sort of thing. Or someone's got just spare items, or someone wants to say, oh, that person who called up and needs their grass cutting or needs some decorating done, if they're cool with me coming in, I could get the right sort of like PPE gear and help them out. Or that person needs a haircut because that haircut's going to make them feel better. We can lock these stuff down, which has been really, really cool. And that's sort of stuff we've been doing internal. But on air, it's literally just been about listening to people, what they want to talk about, if they're getting in touch with us, if it's something that's, affecting them, if it's something that, or if it's something that people need to get off their chest, we let them know and reiterate that, look, this is your BBC, you're a licensed fee payer. Let us use our resources to help you. Let us use our resources to sort of entertain you. And, I guess it's just like, I'm trying not to go into it thinking too hard, where if we're going to the breakfast show, stuff that makes me laugh, that is, having a laugh with our roving reporters. And sometimes that's the wonderful Amanda White. And we've got Lucy Clark as well. I've got a great team of like producers where we're like, okay, we know that, and this, forgive my language, it's like, we know that things are shit. We need to sort of remind, let people know that, yeah, things are pretty bad. This is why they're bad, but here's something to take you away from the badness. You know what I mean? So it's having that sort of dancing around that formula, and like we were talking about before, knowing what to sort of go in, and how, if I'm going to talk about how bad, let's say, this is an example, not saying this is happening, let's say, this horrific stuff going on at Hull Royal. It's like, I'm not going to be talk about something really fun and bubbly and then talk about Hull Royal and then go into something bubbly again. It's like, we can lead into it because you want to ease into people about what's happening, setting the context and stuff. So it's really helped me with understanding the audience and like navigating through these valleys of how to set the tone for what will come, because for a lot of people, some people are glued to the radio every day. Their lifeline and their contact with the outside world is the conversations that we're having and how we're going into it. So it's like, we don't want people to know things. This is serious. Wash your hands. Socially distance, only travel when you need to travel. And then obviously wear your face mask. But then it's like, also here's something funny, or something that's quite interesting that's happened, or here's something that's really, really nice. So you want to know what's going on over in Orchard Park about how a community is banded together to help strangers whose house is burnt down. Yeah, this has happened from the actions of an individual, and this is what's come from it. Because you're like, wow, do you know what I mean? The fact that so much, crappy stuff is happening, and it's not an ideal situation for anyone at the moment. Everyone is struggling in some sort of way, and that's fine. But like, let's remind you of some of the good stuff that's happening and some of the interesting things that people are doing, and let's hear it for the creatives who industry has been taken from themselves, but are putting stuff out on Facebook and Instagram, and doing all these live sort of concerts to keep people going. And it's all the independents that are staying open, leveling up, being able to navigate this COVID space to keep us fed or to keep us entertained, or to sort of like sell us their produce. And it's illustrating what the communities mean within Hull, within East Riding of Yorkshire, with East Northern Lincolnshire, and amplifying that and letting people know that, look, there's some cool stuff happening. This is where you can find it. But it's been quite, it's interesting just seeing how resilient people can be. But then, like, people are also very fragile at the same time, and it's been it's very eye opening to just how we can be as people. Do you know what I mean? We can get behind each other, and we can fall apart, but then we can be put back together again. And it's just like, I don't know. There's been some really beautiful scenes, there's been some really sad scenes, and it's just something that I'm glad that I'm in a situation where I don't have other stuff necessarily worrying me or getting in the way, that I'm able to sort of, really help other people get through it in a I guess, with as much of a smile on their face as possible, even if I am singing terribly over, people's favorite songs and destroying people's favorite tunes, which I'm sorry, but not sorry.
But I think that's massively important, that Humberside is that sort of that support and community. Like you say, there's some people that aren't getting, obviously those that were shielding and people like that, they weren't able to get outside, and that connection that they have to listening to radio is that really important thing for them to have that. I think that's really important, that that's still there, and that's keeping the people's spirit up and stuff like that. That's the most important thing. I know it's going to be a lot more challenging few months probably to come, I imagine. But if we have that sort of these things in place, then we can come through that. And I wanted to ask yourself, really, like, sort of, what are the things that you've took from this sort of period? Like, what have you learned or installed or like tried to sort of improve about yourself through this period? What's it sort of done for you?
I think it's allowed me to sort of focus a bit more, and I'd spent quite a lot of the year just sort of not getting involved in too many projects and too much stuff, and just be like, look, just trust the process, and don't feel like you have to do everything or get involved in everything, because you'll stress yourself out and burn out. And I'm glad I sort of got into that habit so that I could really throw myself into the work that we've been doing at work and some of the stuff outside of work that has, I guess, that sort of like helped me get through it and helped me sort of focus, and that has allowed me to sort of be of some use to the community and things. But I don't know, it's like what I was saying before. I just think it's like there's been so many examples of division. There's been so many examples of people uniting, and it's just like and I feel really quite bad saying this, but just of like, some moments have really shocked me in how people can be so supportive like perfect example of this. Look, you look at what happened with George Floyd's murder, with George Floyd's death, depending on how you want to call it, and the Black Lives Matter protests, the 3-4 that we've had here in Hull. I was quite surprised to see how so many, white people have got involved with this, because in the past where there have been things like this, it has turnouts for protests and turnouts for people that have been genuinely wanting to engage with us, this sort of stuff. It's been predominantly black people, or even that, it's very small numbers, but when you get in like 500 to 800 turn up to the first one, and then you get in 1,500 to 2,000 turn up to the second one, and the numbers keep growing, and people numbers keep get their shrink, but you're getting the more of the same people coming by and wanting to engage and take part. It's just wild. Do you know what I mean? And like, this is someone who's like 32 years old who's thinking, what's in it for everyone else? But no, people are listening, people are waking up, and I'm a big believer in autonomy, but I'm also a big believer in like everything happening for a reason. I think these two have met in the middle where, we've had this global pandemic and we had this whole sort of like Black Lives Matter movement with the spotlight on it, and so many people have taken to it and listened. And it's the same thing with everything that's going on with COVID. You know what I mean? People speaking to their neighbors for the first time, people reconnecting with family members, you know what I mean? People realizing what friendships are and how friendships can be defined, and obviously not letting things like this get in the way, using the technologies. Like, who knew what Zoom was before March? House party, do you know what I mean? Now it's like, it should be in a dictionary, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be like as a way to describe speed, you know what I mean? It should be a way that people have been connected, and it's just like, we're here, and this attitude and these like actions that people have taken on at the moment has been like it's always something that's been there. It's a shame that it's taken a global pandemic to pull it out of people. It's questionable to see how we live our lives and how we're distracted by everything else. But at the end of the day, it's like, look, regardless of what's happening with the numbers now, as soon as we went back into lockdown, mutual aid groups were back up like that. People were mobilizing. People knew what the resources were. People knew what would happen. People knew that, okay, this is annoying. This is frustrating. I thought we was getting out of this, but I know we can get through it. I know that the resources are going to be there. So it's like, it's been really reassuring that, like, people have got this in them. We're seeing, I guess, some of the best of humanity. And I'm always someone that's trying to look at, like, not only is the glass half full, but the glass has got water in it. Did it mean I had that extra lever? Did it mean that extra layer on it? And it's just like, the water's there, and the water's half full in the glass. The water is there, so we've got something to drink. Let's make use of the water at the moment. So, but it's been, it has definitely been a very sort of interesting experience. And like me personally, like personal relationships and stuff, a lot of stuff has changed. Like a lot of stuff has changed. There's people who I haven't seen who I thought I'd just be like that, throughout this time. And then there's people who, where the gap has, initially been wider, and things have just been brought in because of what's going on. And, in some cases, I guess the separation of friendships and stuff, and when friendships sort of widen, sometimes you feel like, oh, my world's getting smaller. But I've kind of thought like, well, the friendships that are really sort of moving forward, and like the friends and family that I really am in connection with, I feel like my world's gotten bigger because there's more room and more time to spend with them, rather than because there's certain people that I've either I don't want to say that aren't sort of necessarily occupying that space anymore. I can use it for other stuff. So it's been a very wild and interesting year and stuff. But hopefully I've been able to sort of be there for as many people, as many of the right people, I guess, as possible.
Yeah, that's really good that you found that you've been able to connect more with people that might have not have been as connected. Just obviously when we was working in a world where it was just like the usual, wasn't it? And obviously now the world's changed in terms of being more, like I say, it's just become where we're able to have that more time is the biggest thing I think we've noticed. We appreciate time more than what we ever thought now. Like I think before it was maybe the value of money and stuff like that, but I think it's now the value of time is becoming a much more sort of importance to people. And I just wanted to kind of like ask you, just for the listeners, what would sort of like maybe 3 tips or something for people, maybe just to sort of take into this lockdown to help them, if there was like 3 things that you would maybe think that...
Great question. I like what you said about time becoming more of a value, because you're right, it is. It's the stuff that I've seen some friends do with the time. I mean, some friends have gone one way, and there's no right or wrong way to get through lockdown at all. There's no right way to get through it, as long as you get through it. You know what I mean? That's important. You know what I mean? You're happy, and we were talking about this on the show the other week. If you're spending the lockdown binge watching films, getting comfortable, make sure you are 100% comfortable on that couch and you're watching some of the most entertaining stuff, because whatever you're doing, just go all out. Do you know what I mean? If you're eating food, make sure you're eating some of the best stuff that all the stuff that you like. Because I've just seen some people throw themselves into things that they wanted to try but haven't really been able to give enough time to it, and stuff that, like, I didn't realize these guys had it in them. Didn't realize these people like, what are you doing this? This is incredible. And they've blown with it. And I'm like, look, you've given so many people opportunities to sort of either restart and rekindle, renew, and that's been a beautiful thing. So I think on that, I would say just get through lockdown however way you want. If it's something you feel like doing, obviously it's not causing any harm to anyone else or to yourself, do it. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel you've got to do all this like leveling up or be, productive, whatever that means. Just do what you need to do. Do you know what I mean? And get through it. And like, because you might get through a box set, you might just sort of spend time painting, you might spend time reading, listening to music, and you might get something out of your system, and that might rekindle something. Oh, actually, you might, this is like the 10th time I've watched this Sex and the City box set, but I've always loved, the fashion in this, or maybe I could maybe do my own. And that might be the spark to sort of create your own fashion, your own fashion line, or wanting to start working in brands. Switch up how you work if you want to go back to the job you was on. So do what you need to do. And I think secondly, I'm gonna. I always try and tell people, it's so important to be surrounded by the right people, to be surrounded by people who are going to encourage you, people that are going to challenge you. Even people that, especially the people that, say no, the people that sort of either say no to you, the people that really, really, really test you. And I think that's good. So I want to tell people, find your tribe, because I think when you've got the right people around you, the right people to go to for certain things, or advice, or to be around for certain stuff, advice, to sort of pour your heart out to, we're creatures of community. Do you know what I mean? And that's why when people live on their own, they, can get depression, they can, the mental health declines. We need to be around people, different people, who have different things. And I'm not saying that relationships are give and take, but, we give to the people we care about, we want to be around, and we allow them to take from us. And it's it works. And it's an equilibrium, isn't it? It balances itself out. So find those people, and it can take time, and it's going to be trial and error. Sometimes, when people are walking out your life, that's, maybe that, there was that exchange of sort of the meeting of minds and energies is done. Do you know what I mean? Or there's not much more you can get from each other, and you can't really take it any further. And that, in my mind, can sometimes leave room for other people, or for you to sort of go deeper with others. And my mate, the third thing I'll definitely say, my mate Warby was saying this on his Facebook. I said, I'm gonna have to steal this for work. It's no matter what's happening, reach out to your dudes and dudettes. You know what I mean? If stuff's getting on your mind, drop someone a text, give someone a call, send them a message or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And I know some people have a system where, with certain friends, if they're feeling really low, if they're feeling really bad, they have any emoji or any word, or an emoji or a word that they send to someone, where it's I don't know, is it that emoji, or is it you know what I mean, whatever, do you know what I mean, or all this sort of stuff. And it's just a signal to some friends where it's okay, I need to do, this person is saying that they want me to speak to them, or they want to vent, or they just need me to be around now. So I think that would be it. So definitely just sort of lean into it, do what feels good, do what you need to do, find your tribe, and reach out to your dudes and dudettes.
Honestly, that's some really great advice. I'd certainly agree with the reaching out. One of my favourite things in reaching out, and it's something I'll be honest, I wasn't comfortable doing at first, but voice notes, sending voice notes to people in terms of on WhatsApp or on Facebook. And I think people kind of get a bit surprised by just a voice note. I think they're so used to text and maybe the occasional phone call, but a voice note, to actually hear your voice and know that it actually means something. I think that's something that people should certainly look at maybe doing a bit more to make it more personal. I think would be a really great one. And to kind of follow on with your tribe thing, I'm kind of a little bit of a pro, well, not a promo, a kind of Something I did, I've created a little bit of a tribe recently where I decided, like I say, with Stay Humble, I wanted to do a support bubble for people that maybe were going through another lockdown and didn't have that support group. So I started that yesterday, and got people sort of sharing sort of 3 things that were their accomplishments for the day. And it was great to see people that have probably never even spoke or talked to each other ever in their life sharing these sort of their sort of accomplishments and what they were wanting to get out from the group. And that was a massive, buzz for myself. And, that's certainly something in terms of creating a tribe is something I'm looking forward to using throughout this lockdown.
I think that's class because you get, if you've got people like you said who've never met each other, some people feel a bit more comfortable talking to a stranger, don't they? They feel like this person who doesn't know me is not going to judge me, and I feel like I'm just verbally, just emotionally getting the weight out, not necessarily dumping it on someone else, but when you do that sort of thing with a stranger, it's like I can just walk away from it now and not have to worry about following up the conversation. So that's a really good idea. Like I'll have to mention it at work because we're always looking out for individuals and groups that are doing this sort of thing. That's if you want us to try and broadcast it to widen it out.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, because I love stuff like that. That's the type of stuff that we look for. Whether we look for anything really on to make a difference that makes a difference in someone else's life. But I think that's fantastic. The voice notes and the support bubbles, that's class.
Yeah, and what I want to talk about now, I know it's difficult to sort of foresee this, but what do you see in the future for yourself? What have you got any aims or goals, or is it just too? Obviously, I know it's challenging with what's ahead with what's going on, but is there anything that you've got in the pipeline that you could aim for in the future?
I don't know if I've got anything in the pipeline. I do have this. So when I went to Harry Potter World about 2 years ago with some friends, and one of my mates got it for me and my other friend for as a Christmas gift. I bought this diary. So it's a Hufflepuff one, amber and blue for life. Big up the badges. Away the badges. And every morning I do 10, 15 minutes of meditation, sort of meditate on the day, how I want it to go, and the goals that I've sort of planned. Things that I've been writing ever since I started doing mindfulness about 5-6 years ago. Just the most common things that come up because things change and things I want to work towards or things that I want, fluctuate now and then. But the main ones have been, I think as a kid, the goal for me was I'd love to be on Radio 1 and just doing a show on there. And there's been a few there's areas of radio broadcast I'd like to work in. I think Radio 1's absolutely fantastic. I listen to a lot of Beats One, a lot of internet radio and stuff in the States. So it's just being able to sort of I guess, that was what I was dreaming of. But then I just keep thinking of, I just want to make this breakfast show as good as it can be. Did it mean, I said, stop focusing on that stuff and just think about, okay, how can we make this breakfast show as good and as reliable? And, everybody's got something to dip in. If you want to dip in on Tuesday when we talk about this, or we have this theme, that's great. Or if Fridays are your thing where we have a bit of fun. Or if you want to stay on Wednesdays, for hump day to have a laugh, come for a hump day. Do you know what I mean? As long as we've got some of that, someone could come in, that's great. And I guess just being able to, again, tell stories, because that's what we do. And, whether it's telling stories through my own writing and from my own storytelling and working on projects with my friends. I've got a little production group called CTK with some good mates from uni, and we did this vegan cooking channel, and we've done short films and all sorts. We just get together a couple of times a week, discuss stuff that we're working on and film when we can, and just working with people who just want to tell stories that can eventually make a difference. Because I think when you asked me about purpose, I kind of forgot that to mention quite a lot of it. A lot of the stuff that was driving me, especially in my early 20s, was not seeing a lot of media and people on the screen who look like me, not seeing a lot of black presenters. But radio was different because all you heard was someone's voice, and you couldn't tell who it was. You couldn't tell what where they were from, the color of the skin, or whatever. So that's why radio for me was that it felt like it didn't matter. I could go in there when there were so many other things where race was an issue, or how I looked versus how I sound was always some issues when applying for certain stuff. But I just want to be able to be in that world so we can set an example and show other young black kids and other kids that feel like they're a bit of an outsider feel like they're a bit of an outlier, that, you know, all you have to do, all you have to be is yourself. Or, you know, you don't have to be like this person. You can draw inspiration from these people, but at the end of the day, everything that you are and the way that you consume and react to the world, no one else can do that but you. So lean into that more, and don't necessarily lean into who your idols are, because you don't want to be a carbon copy, another version of you. You know, you want to be in a position where, you know, you want people to be like, oh, they're, you know, or they're a bit like Kofi Smiles, but they do this. Do you know what I mean? People will use you as an adjective, but then you should be going forth to tell people, nah, just, you know, it's cool that you're inspired by what we do, but then go and you do your stuff. So yeah, it's just storytelling, really. Whether that's like I don't know, a TV show, or a drama on Netflix or Amazon Prime, or if I'm writing my own like anime or manga, or if I'm writing my own comic books, or, you know, writing, you know, I've had loads of ideas, and there's been a story I've been working on which I was like, oh my god, I can imagine this, you know, getting the, you know, the Disney Pixar treatment. Do you know that sort of stuff? It's just any stories that have been inspired by like conversations or music and stuff. And I mean, it just involved in this world and helping other people sort of realize their dreams and potential. Then yeah, and feeling heard as well, just making people feel heard, because even though everyone's got like mobile phones and laptops and stuff, there's so much noise out there. It's like, how do we sort of really help people sort of get out there and feel acknowledged and feel heard? So I know that sounds like such like a sort of wishy-washy thing, but, you know, essentially, yeah, being involved in broadcasting and being able to sort of write and film and tell stories and that sort of stuff, really.
No, that sounds great that you've still want to be able to inspire others, and certainly, obviously, it'd be great to hear, like, I'll see what future stories that you may create in the future, and look forward to hearing them. And what I would like to do is I like to go on my final two questions. So my first one of which is, what does it mean to be human for you?
What does it mean to be human? That is a fantastic question. Oh, that's great. I'm going to have to steal that. What does it mean to be human? I guess it's like, I'm going to try and tie it with like I guess humanity for me revolves around like compassion and empathy. Because as mentioned before, you know, we're creatures of community. And I think we can only live in communities if we understand, and if we listen, and if we care about each other. And like, we can still, you know, you and I can have a disagreement on, do you know what I mean? What is the best flavor ice cream, or, you know, how we, you know, divide the day's hunting or food gathering. You know, we can disagree on that, but then it's not going to lead me to sort of not care. But maybe, like, you know, the one thing we have in common there is like we want to both divide it up in the best way we see possible for not just ourselves but the people around us, and that's the similarity there. And I think, like, once you understand compassion, once you understand, okay, everybody has a need to be understood, to be listened to be heard, to be loved. I feel like reaching compassion, you can only get there through empathy, which is sort of understanding another person and understanding that another person has needs, and understanding how other people feel, even if you don't feel a certain way. So, like, you know, we see it all the time, you know, different groups, you know, look at feminism, look at Black Lives Matter, look at Pride. It's like, okay, some of us I might not be able to identify what it's like to be a gay person, but like I can't turn my nose up, I can't turn my face up at the oppression that they feel and deny them because I haven't experienced homophobia. I can't say it's not real. Do you know what I mean? You know, you've just got to just look and listen to an individual and be like, look, I might not be able to understand your experience, but like, I can see it's hurting you. What can I do to help and stuff? And I think, you know, personally, I think that's where we start with humanity. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you remove one, you can empathize with someone, but then you can also, like, I get what you know, I sort of get what you feel, but then part of me doesn't really care. Do you know what I mean? And I think you need the two to sort of work in unison. So I think, yeah, I would go with, you know, being what it means to be human. I would roll with empathy and compassion, because I think they're two things that are, you know, one thing, as much as people have cared, as much as compassion and empathy I've seen what happens when people lack it as well. It's not nice. It's not good.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that compassion and empathy are certainly important things in terms of being human and being social animals. We need that sort of thing to get through our day-to-day thing, and I certainly think that's something that we've seen. Hopefully, we are seeing more now than ever, like say during this period in time. And I'd love to ask you finally: is what helps you stay humble? What keeps you humble? Is it family? Is it friends?
Yeah, I think definitely family and friends. And I just, yeah, I think it would definitely be. I think it's definitely family and friends because it's just so family, friends, and also strangers are just I guess are just a friend you've never met, and it's like my mom's always said, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you do, and you lift as you rise. So no matter where you go, you bring people along with you. So if I'm doing something in a certain space, and it's just like, okay, we're looking for someone who's who's involved with the community, who's also heavily involved with sports. And, it's got his dip in his social media, but like, okay. I know this guy called David. Do you know what I mean? Like, I might have the skills to be able to do something here, but like, I know someone else that would probably fit it better. Let me put you in touch with them. Do you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
helping people get through the door. I think I know that because it took me so long to get involved and get work and get jobs in media. So many doors have been shut. People saying that they're offering help didn't help, and it's just like I don't want anyone to feel that sort of feeling. So it's like, how can I help people? How can I help people come through? So it's always been about like you know not separating yourself from people, not seeing yourself as up there and doing there, and like understanding that everyone is on a level playing field. No one's defined by the job that they do. No one's defined by where they live, or shouldn't be defined by their job, where they live, their interests, their hobbies. People should be, what is it that Martin Luther King was saying? We judge people based on the content of their character, and if your character is good, then by all means, come on board, get along with it. So I think because I'm surrounded by so many people doing different stuff at different stages, and how everybody seems to be wanting to help each other and being part of that sort of environment, I guess that keeps you humble. And plus, you see, I get seeing how so many different types of people, so many different demographics of people live, how so many different types of people have made things work, either having so much, very little, or nothing at all. That definitely grounds you. That definitely grounds you in thinking like, okay, well, people are making the most out of not having a lot, not having anything. You know, someone who I think might who might consider himself to have something in it. It's like, come on, what's the excuse? Do you know what I mean? Why aren't you putting the effort in, and why aren't you sort of working? Why aren't you learning from? Why aren't you learning from individuals, other people around you that are in different situations? So, yeah, I think it just starts with friends and family. I know, like my sisters and my mum definitely keep us humble, and I've got some good friends that will like definitely give me a lot of grief if I was like stepping out of order, but or like I don't know, letting the show and stuff get to my head. But I don't think I do, because I don't really see myself, or I don't know. It's just never really been an attitude to have, really, sort of thing. But it's a tough question, that.
I love that response that you give though, like in terms of the people around you. Like you say, you've got to bring those people that you feel like might be below you come up with you, and you want to be the people that are above you that want to bring you up as well. I think that's a massive thing that people should do in terms of support, and I think that's a really good point that you made there in terms of staying humble.
Yeah, and it's like I wouldn't want to sort of make it sound like I'm saying everyone's sort of like ranked and there's gradings and stuff, but there's some people in a certain stage of their life where they need a little bit of a hand up. Do you know what I mean? It's and there's some people where I'll be looking out and thinking maybe they'll be able to sort of help me navigate into that space. So it's creating almost like this like sort of like human chain of just like okay, well, I might know someone who's in a position over there that you want to be in. Let me connect you guys or something. So yeah, it's tricky because I think we get taught that there's not enough room. I think like one of the things is like there's so much competition, there's so few spaces that it's like it's got to be me and no one else. Do you know what I mean? So even if there's, I've experienced situations where people haven't wanted a certain position or wanted to do a certain thing, but they've frozen other people out because it's like even though they don't want it, don't want other people to sort of bypass them. And like I've seen people do it. I've been like, that's really weird. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, if you're doing this to someone who you know quite well, I'm I'm closer to a stranger than to a friend to you. What are you going to do to me? And it's quite like, yeah, some people can be quite snarky, so it's always avoiding, well, not even avoiding, not even sort of contemplating having to put myself in that sort of situation in the future. But no, I really like those. What does it mean to be human, and how do you stay humble? Brilliant questions.
Thank you. And finally, I just want to give you sort of a platform for yourself, just to sort of let people know how they can reach you. Obviously, I know you've got your radio show on Humberside in the morning, in the weekdays. What other ways could people reach out to you?
Oh man, like if you want to send me an email, we've got Kofi, which is obviously Kofi at bbc.co.uk, Kofi.smiles@bbc.co.uk. I'm literally Kofi_smiles on all social media. So Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, you can just find us on there and stuff. Fire a message. Do you know what I mean? Whatever. And like, I'm really bad at replying. David, as you know, I'm so sorry. Do you know what I mean? Because I generally get back from work and I'll put my phone down and I'll have a quick go on my PlayStation or read, and I'll just be cracking on with some other stuff. And I think because we're on it so much during the day, you don't really look at them in the evening, do you? Especially when we're using things like Instagram and Twitter and stuff. Because you've been on it all morning, all afternoon. You're like, oh, it's the last thing you want to look at in the evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm generally just Kofi Smiles. You find us, send me an email, drop me a message, and any questions, any way I can help at all. I'll do my best, especially if you are doing stuff. If you think that, like, one of the things I'm trying to do is get people to feel a bit more entitled about getting in touch with us at the BBC with stories or things that they're up to or things that they've figured out. Because quite a lot of the time, so many people in Hull, in East Yorkshire, Northern Lincolnshire are doing some cool stuff. But because it's part of their day to day, it's just what I do as a hobby, or it's just what I do with some friends. Well, the 250,000 people that are out there, or the 500,000 people that are sort of within our patch, they don't know about that. They might think that's interesting. Get in touch with us and we'll be able to try and find the time to get you on to come and talk about this. Because someone else will be listening, or someone else might be listening who knows someone that's going to be into that thing, might be curious about it, and put them in touch with you. So it's just about making people feel like, look, getting that confidence back up, which we saw during 2017, to be like, actually, I'm interested in this. I'm doing this cool thing, and I want people to know about it. So yeah, help us. Let us help us help you amplify that message. So
I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, Kofi, and like I say, thank you for staying humble with me today.
Oh no, thank you for inviting us on to Stay Humble, and like I really enjoyed it as well. I think it's been great, and I was looking forward to it. I was like, yeah, it was one of these things I had on my calendar. I was like, it's always fun, like learning about new people, and I feel like you can learn about yourself as well when you start chatting about these type of topics and stuff, and especially when I haven't done anything like this for a while. So yeah, Dave, thank you very much for having us on. Looking forward to seeing who else you getting into the series, and if there's anyone I can try and like hook you up with, then let us know.
That'll be great. Thank you.
No problem.